Now we're going to talk about solving a right triangle. So you're going to have a triangle and you're going to be given some information about the sides and the angles. And the goal is to be able to find the lengths and the measures of all of the sides and all of the angles. Okay? So to solve any triangle, because later on we'll talk about how to solve triangles that aren't right triangles, we need at least one side and two other measures. So for a right triangle, you already have one angle. So we need one side and either another side or another angle. Okay, so here's an example. We label the angles with capital letters, so A, B, and C. And then the sides that are opposite them with the corresponding lowercase letters. So this is side A, side B, and side C. So right now we know that angle C is 90 degrees, is our right angle. We know that angle B is 52 degrees. And we know that little b is 124. And we want to find the rest. Now, the easiest thing to find right now is angle A, because we know that all of the angles must add up to 180 degrees. So to find A, we're going to take 180 minus 90 minus 52. So we would get that angle A is 38 degrees. Okay, now we're going to have to use trigonometry, the trig functions, to find the other sides. So let's start with side A, and we're going to use the 52 degrees. Now, if we look at angle or side A, that's the adjacent to 52. And the other side that we know anything about is the opposite. So we need to think which trig function, so if we use SOHCAHTOA, which trig function uses opposite and adjacent? Well, that's tangent. So we're going to say tangent of 52 degrees equals opposite, which is 124, over adjacent, which is our A. Okay, and now we're going to solve for A. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by A. So I'd have A tangent of 52 degrees equals 124. So to get A by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by tangent of 52. So A equals, and here's where we're going to pull out our calculator. So in our calculator, first make sure you're in degrees. So by hitting mode, changing it to degrees. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to do 124 divided by tangent of 52. Okay, and we'll round to one decimal place. So we'll say A is 96.9. Okay, so now that we have two sides, and since this is a right triangle, we can find C using the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 96.9 squared plus 124 squared equals C squared. And to find C, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 96.9 squared plus 124 squared is equal to C. Now, you can't just cancel out the square root and the squares on each. You have to actually put in your calculator the square root of 96.9 squared plus 124 squared. Okay, so we see C is about 157.4. Okay, so we found all the sides and all of the angles. So let's do one more together. Okay, so we're going to assume that this is a right triangle, that this is C. Okay, so we know that angle C is 90 degrees. We know that this would be little c since it's the hypotenuse, so that's 150. This would be little a since it's opposite. and this would be little b. So we know A is 126. Now, the first thing we can do here is find B using the Pythagorean theorem. So we know 126 squared plus B squared equals 150 squared. So I'm going to subtract 126 squared from both sides. So B squared equals 150 squared minus 126 squared. And I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So B is equal to the square root of 150 squared minus 126 squared. So we get B is about 81.4. Okay. Now we want to solve for angle A or angle B, and it doesn't matter which one we do. Let's go ahead and solve for angle A. So we can kind of think of this as our A or our theta. Now, we're going to pick a trig function, and it doesn't matter which one you use. Let's go ahead and use sine. So we're going to say sine of A is equal to opposite, so 126 over hypotenuse, 150. Now, to solve for A, we're going to take sine inverse of both sides, because if we have sine inverse of sine of A, that's equal to sine inverse of 126 over 50. Okay, so here the sine and the sine inverse cancel each other out. So A is equal to sine inverse of 126 over 50, and that's something we can just put in our calculator. So sine inverse is here in yellow, so we're going to do second sine inverse, 126 divided by 50. Sorry, that should be 150. Okay, so we get A is 57.1 degrees. Now to find B, we can use the fact that the angles add up to 180, so we can take 180 minus our 57.1 minus 90, and angle B is 32.9 degrees. Okay, so we've solved that triangle.